Good evening. My name is Barbara McDade, and I will be the moderator tonight. I'm with the League of Women Voters in the Bangor area. I'm on the leadership team. And we have with us tonight Nancy Ogle, who will be our timer. And Blaine, my name is my things. Thank you very much. Will be our tech person, and Mary Kellogg will help hand out cards. They were with the League, and our almost League member, Valerie Carter, is with Unitarian Universalist. I always want to switch them. I'm so sorry. Who is a co-sponsor. This evening's forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Maine, see if I can get it right now, Unitarian Universalist Society of Bangor, the Social Justice Committee, and the Bangor Public Library. I want to thank the candidates for taking their time and coming out tonight. The League is very, very interested in making sure that everyone has the information that they need to be able to vote. And we urge you to get out and vote. Something very important to us all. The format is simple. The candidates will have 3 minutes to give an introductory statement. There is then a question that they got beforehand, and they will have 2 minutes to answer that question. And then we have questions both from the audience and that I received online before the forum started. So without further ado, we will begin. And I think we said Rod. Did I say that, or did I say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, and I apologize. I got some notes, so I tried to take notes that I wanted to present. And first of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you to the League for sponsoring this and bringing us together. My name is Rod Hathaway, and I'm seeking your support, and I stress your support for the election as your state rep in Augusta for House District 24. A little background on me: I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Veazie. Married my Bangor High School sweetheart 47 years ago, and yes, I am 68. I have one son, Rick, who also resides in Veazie, my daughter-in-law, Deanna, and my 3 grandchildren, who all attend the Veazie Community School. My wife, Carolyn, retired from the Veazie Community School after 35 years in 2020. Professionally speaking, I'm a partner president of a Hamden-based trailer sales and leasing company that employs 28. I actively serve nationally on a trailer manufacturers board as well as a portable storage board. And outside of my work, I serve on my local credit union. Beyond that, I'm a supporter of the Bangor Region YMCA and the Bangor Region Chamber of Commerce, to highlight a few. My involvement in politics has been very low-key to this point. I was first elected to the Veazie City Council in 1978, following my father, who served in various positions in Veazie government for over 30 years himself. I myself led that elected post in 2011, only to find out I truly missed serving the people, and ran unsuccessfully for the state senate in 2012. During my time serving the citizens of Veazie, I also served on many regional boards like the County Budget Committee and the Maine Municipal Legislative Policy Committee. My biggest accomplishments during my tenure, along with a talented and capable city council, was bringing a 500 megawatt power plant to Veazie, the replacement of an aging school with a modern new community school, and bringing senior housing complex to my community. Why I'm seeking out your support for Rod Hathaway to serve you in Augusta. I enjoy serving people and feel my style of listening, compassion, dedication, and kindness will go a long way in Augusta. I am not interested in negativity that surrounds and consumes us today in politics. I am interested in getting things done that help you and me and the people of Bangor, rural, Barnum, and Veazie.
Thank you very much. Joe here.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having us here tonight. I'm Joe Perry. I was born in St. Joe's Hospital and have never lived more than 3 miles away from there. I grew up in Veazie. I was actually a Broad State boy back around 1980. I've lived in Bangor the last 25 years. I've owned a small business in Bangor, 30 years in Bangor. I own a small business, Joe's Market on Garland Street. I was first elected to the Maine House in 1996. I did 8 years in the Maine House. I was in the Maine Senate in 2004 and served 6 years there. And then in 2015, I was elected to the Bangor City Council for 3 years, 1 term. And then I ran for the House again in a special election when our state rep in this district, Aaron Fry, became Attorney General after the Attorney General post had been vacated by Janet Mills when she was elected governor. My wife, Jane, and I live on Fern Street. We have 2 adult sons, Joseph and Kyle. I'm running for re-election. I find myself in the store business on the front lines of so many problems we face. I think being in the store business is what led me to politics in the first place, because I see people day in and day out in the neighborhood, people, the constituents of Bangor, and see the struggles people face, especially my little store on Garland Street. It's a low income area. It's a food desert, really. And I just thought having that close connection to the people of the neighborhood was a good fit to run for office, and it works out when I was first elected, and I think it's worked. People can find me accessible, and I see the struggles folks have, and so that's what led me to run again 4 years ago, and I'm running for election because really at this point, I find my experience is becoming valuable. That with term limits, people are gone after 8 years. And with John Martin, who's been there forever, and Solomon Millett, he's a long-term Republican member of the legislature. They both serve on the appropriations committee. Well, John's termed out. Solomon Millett's not going to be here much longer, and we're losing a lot of institutional knowledge. So I just feel like my experience of the ups and downs over the past 26 years, or since 1996, I think is valuable right now. And so that's why I decided to run again, and I hope to serve people of Bangor. And now Veazie, where I grew up, my mother, 93 years old, she's never been able to vote for me. She's never been part of the district, so I think she'll vote for me, but I she's not on our ballot for the first time, and so it's kind of exciting to have a chance to represent the town where I grew up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joe, we'll start with you for the prepared question, which is, what do you think is the most pressing problem? Oops, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry. That was Hampton City Council. I mean, Hampton School Committee. So this one, what do you think is the most pressing problem the people living in the Bangor area are currently facing? And what can the state do to help?
Yes, thank you. And I don't know how you keep this all straight. Especially these council forums are put on, because it's so hard for people to know with a bunch of candidates, and it really is a valuable service. I think back to the first time I ran for city council in 2015, and I attended your forum, and it was the same question that you wanted us to lead with. I don't think the answer's changed. It's drugs, hands down. Second place is even close. The drug problem we have here, and it's all intertwined with crime and mental illness and homelessness. And I don't see enough being done. We're going into winter. We've got Kent City up there. We have hundreds of homeless people living on the streets. The city is not, there's no public, I don't think the Bangor Library, Shaw's Main Street, or small businesses like mine should be doing this, the city's work of providing public bathrooms, and there's very little dignity for people who are living on the street. And that's, in my little store, I see homeless people every day. We do what we can to help in our little way. But I really think that the city and government in general, the city's the closest to it, needs to step up and do more. I actually think, and this is one of the bills I think sponsor, I think the county should be doing more, because it does largely fall on Bangor. Veazie, which is part of the district, Orono, and a little bit of Brewer, that the problem is much smaller there, but we should all be in it together. The county should be doing more, and we really need to step up and keep people with give them some hope. And, you know, if there's no hope, you know, drugs and other addictions follow. So I think most of our quality of life issues as residents, and certainly the quality of life people who are addicted or homeless, we need to do better.
Thank you. Rod, do you need the question?
I don't, because I'll try to answer that quickly in 2 minutes, but I think there's a number of issues, and I'm gonna just ramble through, and at the end, I'll give you a quick answer, but not a quick solution, but a quick answer. I think childcare is an issue, lack of the high cost, energy, gas to get to work, heat the home is going to be tough choices for a lot of people this month. I think food insecurity, food for our school kids and our seniors. How can we have empty bread shelves in our stores? I don't understand how the richest nation on earth can have that. Labor, we spent millions and millions of dollars on hardcore issues like infrastructure. And I'm not downplaying that, but we still have human beings living in tents in our cities. That is a massive problem to me. I'm going to run out of time, so I'm just going to go down through some others. Homelessness, I think, is a significant issue. Ownership. Now we're dealing with inflation, rising interest rates, senior care, domestic violence, mental health, substance abuse, and more. My short answer to the question, however, and I think, Joe, we agree, I think pretty much on this, is substance abuse and homelessness. And my solution is a more focused funding for faster, rapid intervention and connecting providers to services much quicker locally. I think that will go a long way in helping us solve problems.
I did this at the city council forum, and so I'm going to use my prerogative once again. With my hat on as a member of the Cultural Development Committee in Commission in Bangor, and as the chair of the Architectural Committee, I hope everyone has been appreciating the vitality of the arts community in Bangor. Paris, as you know, is known as the City of Lights. And this came about because King Louis XIV added lightning to curtail criminals. But he also encouraged Paris's becoming the center of education, the arts, and the sciences. And this evolved into the Enlightenment. What can Maine do to encourage the state to become a state of light, an incubator for safe, welcoming place for artists, scientists, and technologists? And Joe.
Thank you. I mean, that's a very important part of our economy. If you go back, 20 years ago, John Roman from the Bangor City Council was very active in bringing the arts, and I can't remember the name of it, but bringing arts into the to the forefront. We got the folk festival and American Folk Festival and National Folk Festival. And now I think that's probably what morphed into waterfront concerts, and we see how valuable that is to just the city itself and options for people here, but the economy as well. But yeah, art is very, very important. And what can we do
to be an incubator for discussing ideas and for encouraging new technologies and new science?
Yeah, I mean, if you get into the new technologies and sciences, there's a great opportunity here in the state of Maine for the space industry and launching cube satellites into space on a polar orbit instead of an equator orbit, and the opportunity is huge. I think we saw in the paper a few weeks ago something going on at the Presque Isle Airport, and as well as Limestone, and off the coast, the old Navy base down Cutler, and the old Brunswick. There's a bunch of startup companies, and I think we just need to continue to invest in all the new technologies, get a jump on the rest of the country, and draw people in here, because more population, more high-paying jobs, and makes a more vibrant economy and opportunities for everyone. So those would be a few things, certainly, that the space industry, I think, is important.
Very good, thank you. Rob, do you need to try to reframe the question?
Sure, just want to make sure I try to address it.
Okay. What can Maine do? What can Maine do to encourage the state to become a state of light, to encourage a safe, welcoming place for the arts, the sciences, and technology?
I think certainly the environment we're living in, and I'm not sure if I can address adequately the state issue, but in our specific region, I think, as George mentioned, the American Folk Festival, sorry that has left, and the waterfront concerts, both of which were entities that myself, my family, and my company supported from not after the fact, from day one. We were there to support those activities, and I wholeheartedly support them going forward. I think that brought not only economic wealth to our region, but also brought a diverse economy to our region, brought a whole different group of people to Bangor, Maine, of all places. And when you are at one of those activities and you're talking to people from Nova Scotia or New York or Vermont or whatever, it is truly encouraging to see that in Bangor, Maine. Furthermore, one of the things that myself and my company worked on, we were on cutting edge with the University of Maine in providing technology to be able to monitor these shipping containers all over the world. We have been supplying the base core equipment to that facility and allowing them to modify so that they can monitor anywhere in the world munitions containers, and if somebody opens them unauthorized, they can detect that halfway around the world. So I think technology, the arts, certainly are very in the infinite stage, but we have something with which to build.
Thank you. And Rod, we'll start with you. For this audience question, the two parties often act like warring tribes. Senator Charles Schumer wrote an op-ed in the New York Times that said, "Save America, end partisan primaries." Will you propose legislation to end Maine's partisan primaries and to replace them with a true open public primary where the parties participate but don't control publicly funded primaries? I'm sorry.
Interesting question. I think it has some merit. I think it's worthy of further conversation, discussion, whatever. I am really consider myself to be open, moderate. I am not extreme one way or the other. I think a lot gets lost in that partisan politic environment. So I guess a short answer, I'd be open to conversation and further exploration on that note. And I am, just as a side note, I am not receiving any federal, state, local monies, individual monies in my campaign. This is a campaign about me.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. I think politics in general, on any level, would be a lot better served if the candidates, I believe, like Rod and I have no interest in any negative campaigning from myself or on my behalf. In fact, I was very discouraged in 2010 when I ran for the Senate, because my opponent for the Senate was Nikki Farno. Everyone knows Nikki. She served on the Bangor City Council, on the school board, and a real likable sort and a competent politician. And I had no problem thinking, I don't think she has a problem with me, but the outside this outside money came flooding into the state. And it was the most negative campaign I ever had. And at the time, or ever seen really, my kids were little, and I didn't know until afterwards what a toll it took on my family, seeing this stuff every day coming to the man. None of it's true. Okay, my view on politics is, if what we're doing is good or bad, just judge us on what we're doing. You don't have to inflate it, you don't have to make it up, you don't have to tell stories. And when in the legislature, this bill has come up, this open primary, my understanding is where an independent can choose to vote for one party or another. I don't know if what you're talking about is something different than that. And in the legislature, you only get to know really well what goes in front of your own committee or something you're personally involved with. And I think that bill came up, I think I voted for it, because I do think the polarization is coming from the extremes on both sides, nominating the most extreme candidates, leading this atmosphere. And so if in my view, about 1/3 of the public is Democrat, Republican, and Independent. And then only about 30% vote primaries. I mean, 4 or 5% is really driving the train. And we need the broader majority of regular folks to get along, to have a lot bigger say in who the candidates are. And I think that would go a long way towards helping things.
Thank you. If I can just interject, but if you want to comment, I'll let you both comment. I think what the questioner was talking about was that there would not be a Republican primary and a Democrat primary, but all the candidates would be in one primary, and then the top 4 would be in the election.
Do you want to comment on that?
I don't know enough about what has happened in the past. I guess I'd be open to a conversation about it. I'm not sure what exactly that does for us.
I'm in the same boat as Rod. I don't know. I've heard of that, I guess. You can actually have a general with 2 or people of the same party, go to the top 4 top vote getters. I'd have to know a lot more about that particular process, I think.
This actually was not a league question, but we did study at one point. And Bangor League came up with the idea of having, like the top 4 winners from the primary be in the November election, and then choose by ranked choice voting. So, but it kind of takes the parties out. I mean, the parties would still, support their candidates and work for their candidates if they wanted to, but it doesn't give as much control to the parties. But that was the thinking at the time. So, next question. And Rod, I think we're starting with you. There is a federal law called the Institute of Medical Diseases, and there's an IMD exclusion. It discriminates against medical necessities simply because of the type of disease, i.e. mental illness. Maine could seek a waiver to this law, but has sadly not done so. If elected, will you demand to know why and sponsor legislation to end the pain and death caused by this law?
Just sort of happy on that. I'm not familiar with IMD. As we speak of, I would certainly be interested to know more about it before I would pass judgment. But I guess I reserve a comment for about it to publicly say yes or no at this point. And sorry.
No, that's what happens.
Maybe you'll have the answer, right?
I don't know specifically what that is. I know we have a great champion of mental health here in the audience who I would always look to for advice and advocate. I do think it's sad, it's tragic, the situations people with mental health challenges face. And I've tried to help people in more recent years who have very serious schizophrenia, or young people who don't know what the issue is, and trying to find help go into the emergency room and kind of churn through and probably not a lot of follow-up, or trying to get a referral from our primary care doc and being told it's 7 months or a year before you get into a place for any kind of help. I mean, we have really let that, and I was on the banking and insurance committee back in the old days when mental health wasn't even covered. It was under John Baldacci when finally we gave severity to mental health and insurance coverage, but certainly the providers there's not enough providers there, there's not enough support there, there's nonsense about defund the police. It's not about defunding the police, it's about giving them the tools they need, because most of their calls are mental health calls. I see them every day. In the name of people struggling with mental health, and the police are the ones who show up, and the jail becomes our third mental hospital here for people who are struggling. And so we need, to me, it goes back to the root of the homelessness and the substance abuse. But I think we really let society down, and not just here in Maine, but everywhere. And it's, the shortages everywhere, and money and providers. I think it's going to be a tough challenge, because there's not enough people in healthcare already. But certainly the state and a lot of stuff takes governor leadership to really change the tide on something where a problem of that magnitude. And I'm hoping times are good now. There's money coming in. It seems like it's going to, the revenue is going to stay strong, and it's time we really invest in mental health.
Joe, what is the most important budget issue facing the state?
Budget issue facing the state. I mean, our budget's in great shape right now. We've balanced the budget. We've had huge surpluses. These 800. I think Governor Mills has been really responsible. That money has come in so strong. It's hard to know. In all the years past, you can kind of count on a revenue flow, but it's so we've never seen anything like it. And these $850 checks represent half of the surplus that the state took in. The governor did not want to book, or the legislature, all this revenue as something that we can count on as ongoing. We did use half of it to address so many of the needs that we have not been able to address over the years. But a lot of it was financial. It was fully funding education. It was fully funding the homestead exemption, fully funding revenue sharing, doing more for the counties. And that ends up in the property tax payers' pocket. In the previous administration, all those cuts, I'm not blaming the previous administration, they had tough budgets, but it was all shifted on the property taxpayers. So a lot of what we've done is making good on those things. But we have waiting lists for adults, kids, when they get out of school. My son was going to be 22 in December. He has autism, he's nonverbal. And we never had much of worries taking care of him through his high school years. But now he's an adult. And I found out when you go from the school system into adulthood, the challenges, the waiting lists that people are dealing with to get the services they need, and the way people can progress. Certainly, the mental health, which we've discussed, drugs and homelessness, which we've discussed, and the waiting list for these young adults who need support once they're out of the school system. And those are the biggies, and they're not just biggies as a problem, they're biggies with the price tag. But if this revenue stays the way it is, we haven't raised any taxes for this money, I think we need to invest in ourselves. And I think the payback would be great.
Rod,
If you don't mind.
okay. What is the most important budget issue facing our state?
I think the biggest issue facing the state as a whole is continuing the momentum that we've come through this pandemic, and we've made ourselves pretty much whole again. And with a nice budget surplus, thank you, Joe, for that work and the current administration. But I'm more concerned about tomorrow and next year and the year after. How do we continue that strong economic, vibrant economy that we've come through this pandemic with? And it's been said, and I think it can be, some truth in it. A lot of it came from the federal government, and a lot of stimulus money to prop up the state, the municipalities, the county, and so forth. But all of that being said, we still have this substance abuse and people living in tents. Mm-hmm. And that is extremely frustrating to me, that we've done so well economically, most of us, in our communities, that it still remains a significant problem. And now we're past that phase of these stimulus checks and so forth. Now we're on our own, and we still have to have this major issue out there that confronts us. And I'm concerned about the economy. I think it's fairly healthy right now, but you've got this tide going against it with rapidly rising interest rates, inflation, high energy costs, high food costs. There's a number of challenges that this next administration is going to have to deal with head on.
And speaking of high energy costs, how can Maine have more affordable, cleaner energy?
Let me just start. That's a tough question. I think we're diversifying ourselves. We're on the right track. Solar is certainly taking a more prominent position. Listening tonight on the news about offshore wind coming into play in a more significant manner, with a prototype going to a larger scale model, possibly. Natural gas, although it's higher in price, I mean, that plays a role in it. But in the end, we still remain significantly tied to oil. And we need to do something to the administration needs to lead the way to get every homeowner what they need, maybe through efficiency Maine incentives, I'm not sure, but something to stimulate the dependency on oil more significantly.
Joe?
Thank you, Mike. I agree, and I agree with Brock's answer to the previous. It's, a lot of stuff is tenuous right now, and we don't know what the future's going to bring, and the state's really susceptible to big swings, and when the economy moves a little bit, a fair amount, and these high energy prices, I think, are largely responsible for a lot of the other problems we're facing, because those energy goes into everything we buy. That leads to inflation on other things, and so we're the most dependent state in the nation on home heating oil, and that's been a distinction we've had for a long time. We need to diversify. The heat pumps, efficiency Maine, the heat pumps have been a great success. You see the solar going up, the offshore wind, which Roy spoke about, but certainly buttoning up our homes, that's the best dollar spent. More energy efficiency, more insulation, because it's still expensive to get solar or wind power. So the energy we don't use it. And I think that I saw the governor being blamed for having a tax credit for electric cars, and that only rich people can afford them, and it's kind of unfair, or whatever. And I think back to 2008, when fuel was $5 a gallon, there was a federal tax credit on SUVs in the Montrose drill, baby drill. So I think we've come a long ways from there, that we're, the tax credit for the SUVs and the drill, baby drills gone, and we're finally looking at in a serious way diversifying. But that comes with a lot of cost as well. I think ongoing higher energy costs is probably our biggest ongoing challenge that we need to tackle, and it needs to be on the forefront of everything we do.
Our next question, Joe, can start with you. What committee would you like to serve on in the legislature, and why?
Okay, that's an interesting question. My experience in the legislature is primarily with the tax committee. I've got a dozen years, I think, on the tax committee. 6 of them I was the Senate chair of the tax committee, and for the 10-year period, I knew every year what I was doing. I was doing tax, and I was working on comprehensive tax reform, and we passed it. And it was a good tax package that broadened the base of sales tax, made the tax code more stable, lowered burden for Mainers with more exportable taxes. And finally, after 30 years of talking about this, we get it done. The next year is repeal numbers without office. So that's how that went. But I don't feel bad about either of those things, really, at the time. Because our work didn't go to waste, because almost everything we did, and it's a lot of work, sorting out tax policy. What we did was largely on the shelf, ready to use, and has been implemented over the last dozen years. And so I don't, so we've essentially done the tax reform, just in a different way than we had created it. But I served the last 2 years on tax, and I thought to myself, I don't know why I'm here still. I think my passions are more towards what I think is our biggest challenge is energy. And I would want to serve on the Energy Utilities Committee, because that is truly the biggest tax we all pay. I just had 125 gallons delivered to my house, into my business, and I used to fill the tank at $1,387 and that's not gonna last. Once November is gonna be, I'll be ordering in November. That's by far the biggest challenge, the biggest tax we pay, the biggest drain on our economy. And so I want to be in the arena, and I have kind of technical, my views are more on the technical side of things, a lot of what goes on until legal stuff. But I think that's where I can contribute the most right now.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question. I think my answer is the obvious. In my line of work, transportation would be my number one wish. If I had a wish to be on a committee, I am intimately involved with the ports in Maine, with the interstate highway system, the Associated General Contractors Association. I am actively involved in all of that. Furthermore, I am pretty intimate with the national ports, both Long Beach and Newark, and the ports in China, as we are a significant importer of containers from overseas. So I can bring that experience not only locally throughout the state of Maine, but globally as well, as we become a little Maine-based company involved way above our league overseas, dealing with the people in Shanghai and so forth. So, and if I had a second wish, it would, business and industry is a passion of mine. I've been in business since 1973. Young guy working in the paper industry and sales. And you can all see what happened there over the years. But we are, as a business, we are actively involved in ramping up the capital expansion in Rumford at that mill, and also very actively involved in the Madison rehab of that paper mill. So those would be my two wishes if I had them.
You can wish.
Yeah.
Thank you. Rob, we'll start with you on this one. What can be done to help service centers like Bangor be able to continue to provide the services that they do when taxes are lower in neighboring towns who are not providing the same services?
Great question. Great question. And one I'd like to take the opportunity to talk about. And that's something that in my 30+ years on the neighboring community of Veazie, I was an advocate of Veazie coming together with Bangor, joining forces and combining resources to provide a more cost-effective service. And I'll use this as an example. And it's a real example that I actively spoke about at my city council. Was the little town of Veazie had the good graces to receive free of charge $125,000 ladder. The town of Veazie, with less than 10 part-time volunteer firefighters, were in receipt of a $100,000+ fire engine, when less than 2 miles on Hogan Road, the city of Bangor was in, I don't want to say dire straits, but in a significant need for a sophisticated technical piece of equipment. We couldn't come together. I advocated that we need to come together. We don't need to have that piece, but we do for the one facility in town that came to town. But overall, we did not need that. And that's a shame when you can't have those constructive conversations, how we can work together. I don't know whether it's the county level or just communities coming together, but the fact of the matter is Bangor is a service center, and we all should be there to help support the service center.
Joe?
Can you repeat the question?
I will. What can be done to help service centers like Bangor be able to continue to provide services when taxes are lower in neighboring towns not providing those services?
Well, better be careful what I say here, because this is one of my biggest frustrations in the legislature, is you often think things come down on Democratic and between the Democrats and the Republicans on those lines, but more often than not, it's rural versus urban, and it just does turn out that there's more Republicans in rural Maine, but it really oftentimes is rural versus urban, because the problems we have here in Bangor largely are not faced by these communities outside of Bangor. Certainly, you get a couple of towns away from Bangor because the services aren't there. The airport's not there, the hospital's not there, the homeless shelters aren't there, the tax exempt educational places aren't there. So these smaller towns, if they have people, the methadone clinics aren't there. The people in the smaller towns that have struggles or problems that need government assistance or charity, or, nonprofit assistance or help end up in Bangor. The Bangor Police Department I can't say every day or every week, but a lot see police departments from outlying towns or state police, and Bangor police will follow them, and because they know what they're doing. They're bringing someone from rural Maine and dropping them here in Bangor. And now, Bangor, and then we don't get the backup or support from the rural areas in the legislature. So I do think more and more this should be done on the county level, where we all have a stake in it, service centers and more rural areas. But it's just it's getting the buy-in from the folks who don't have the problems. General assistance is required in every town, every municipality in the state. In a rural public assistance office, Bangor is 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. It might be 1 to 2 on Thursdays. So but this is a challenge, getting the rural areas to be more supportive of the service centers. We're really doing a lot to support their communities.
Can I just interject that? Joe, I just couldn't be in agreement more on this issue. And I served, as I said, for over 30 years in the outlying town next to Bangor, and I was always the advocate that we need to join forces. We can't just drop off and wash our hands of that issue. It's all of our issue. And I don't know how to solve it, whether it's an incentive or the county or something. I'm in agreement very much. Thank you.
Joe?
Yeah.
How do you think the state legislature can aid child protective services to see that all children in Maine can have a safe, supportive upbringing? How do you balance that with parental rights?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and the pendulum seems to swing, from one end where it appears people want to argue this thing's progressive, and then we're not doing enough, and tragedies happen, and finding that balance. I've never served on the Health and Human Services Committee or any committee where someone's life is hanging in the balance, because that's not what I'm cut out to do. I can't. The stories are just too tragic. Some of these cases out there in that little store. I have kids who walk to the school or wait for the bus every day, and I know many kids come from homes that it is a struggle with food security, just housing security, and you see a lot of struggles out there. That is a tough question. In the legislature, a lot of these, each department is run by is headed by a commission who works directly with us. And I've learned over the years that any major change, any major sweeping policy change takes governor leadership, and it helps if it's an issue that in the governor's campaign and where their plans are on the record. It's very difficult for any one legislator to make really, if your plan is not in the governor's budget, it's funded with appropriations committee, so the big, and I've kind of got off track. What was the exact question here?
Half in the legislature about child protective services, see that all children in Maine have a safe, supported dog.
A dozen years ago, I served on the early child, it was a commission to study early child. And what we found is that we do a pretty good job as a society, prenatal and up to birth. We do a pretty good job once kids get to school, and we've gone to full kindergarten, full day kindergarten, gone to pre-kindergarten. There's a gap in between from the time kids are born to they get to school, where there's not any kind of a great support. And the statistics all show if we just invest more into families, even as simple as nurse visits, 4 nurse visits after birth, and not just for people who are at risk, for everyone. Just that is an important step, that if we can do more when the kids are born and from when school starts, and bring that gap together where we can really give families and kids the support they need during that period, the payback, it goes on for a lifetime, and it is huge, and the numbers all bear it out. But sadly, in each 2-year budget, only so much gets funded. I don't know if that answers the question.
I know every child deserves the same opportunity, in my opinion. Same opportunity for food, security, educational opportunities, and a safe environment. What a shame and what a disservice if we can't provide that. And some of the stories that you hear, and I'm just reading the newspaper reports on it, it's really tragic. And I don't know. Don't have an answer to fix. I just think a more rapid response and quicker intervention is the answer. And I don't know how to provide that, but certainly DHS provides a significant safeguard for that, and we need to make sure that they have the staffing, the ability to intervene when need be. But I just think it's tragic, and it's a real shame and disservice to the younger kids.
We have a lot of questions, and it doesn't look like I'm going to get through all of them. So I'm trying to pick out the ones that we haven't done, although this one is on homelessness. And Rod, I'll start with you. Homelessness is a major problem in Bangor and in all of Maine. What can the state do to see that everyone has a safe, secure house? Home.
Certainly more funding. I'm not sure what that looks like today. This homelessness issue is real troublesome. It seems like in the last 10 years, it's become quite prevalent. And I just returned a couple of days ago from Denver, and it's the same thing there. It was in Nashville in the spring, same thing there. So don't think we're in any kind of unique position here, but we need to do something about this on a more local level so we can quickly address it. I think just trying to push it aside and ignore it and then go clean it up is not, in my opinion, the right approach. I think we need rapidly to get in there, get the folks what they need, whether it's mental health assistance, substance abuse assistance, or something, and get them into a safe environment and get them, help them onto a more productive path forward. Whether it's for the number of things bantered around about utilizing vacant buildings or old school buildings or whatever, that need help, but certainly we need to do something sooner than later to address this homelessness issue.
Yeah, I think a lot of, I mean, the state can provide funds and the state can do some stuff that makes it a bit easier, but it's really I think more of a local issue. And housing, even if you're not homeless, housing is almost impossible right now. I know 2 different families who moved, one of them to Denver, because they had a Section 8 voucher, they couldn't find housing here, so we're losing people without enough housing. Now, what I learned on the tax committee this year, because we looked at some tax incentives to get more money into the home fund through Maine State Housing to build more housing. We're told from people who know that money's not the issue. That there's not enough people out there to build this stuff. You can put all the money you want if people aren't there to build it, and if these projects aren't ready to go, it's not going to get built. But I think it was in Nashville, who the story I saw on the Today Show, a woman who said it's homeless for home first, housing first. That whatever your problem is, mental health or whatever it is, we get you in the home first, and then we address all the other challenges in your life. I think Bangor is trying to go with that model, and it's hired a homeless coordinator, seems to be doing a good job of that. The task is overwhelming, but get every other problem worse, but not having a home. Get people in the home, and then start trying to address the root causes that has them on the street. But my sales at my store were down. This has been the best year ever. I think it gives some proof that putting money into average people's hands in the economy is good for the economy, and I do hope it keeps going now that the pandemic's over. But my sales have been flat for years, several years, and I think it's because the cost of housing in Bangor becomes so great that it takes so much of anyone's income. There's nothing left over for other things in their lives. So this is going to be a substantial challenge for a long time. And it just, I know my time's left, but one of the great things going on is technical high schools we have here in the state, and getting young people into the trades right away, making good money. So that is one important step.
What businesses would you like to see come to me?
Well, and Rod talked about working for the paper mills years ago, and that was the backbone of the economy. We did, especially under Ballot, when he was governor, it seemed like every week he was dealing with a new mill closure, and it went bent over backwards to try and save everyone. But there's reasons why mills are relocated in other areas of the world, and and so we have to be. The state has always got to be agile and ready to move and support what might be the business of the future. I think the space industry could be a big one, and utilize. It just lines up perfectly that it utilizes some of our underused assets in the state. So that's a big one. I think one of our great successes during the pandemic was we attracted a lot of high wage earners to the state of Maine. It's typically people who can work remotely are high wage earners, and they pay into the system that allows us to do more to help the homeless and others. So and we certainly need to keep going on our progress with high-speed internet throughout rural Maine, because a lot of these folks who work remote want to be in rural Maine. So, I'm interested in any particularly high-wage, good, clean industries that we can attract to the state. But our outdoor environment, there's some interesting stuff going on there. A lot of people becoming entrepreneurs and making it throughout the state. And more environmental stuff, but certainly one of the things I'm most enthused about now is the potential for really good high-tech jobs in the space industry.
I guess I would answer that question by, I'd be interested in any business or any industry that is willing to make investment in our state, in our communities. And I say that, and you kind of look back at, and I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not slamming the call centers and whatnot, but they're a plug and play industry. They come in, they plug in, they do their thing, and the economy gets a little wonky, and they pull the plug and away they go. I'm more interested in those that are willing to make significant investment with long-term goals within our state and within our community. And to do that, I think you need to have a commitment on the infrastructure, on broadband, on our highway system and our port system. And you need to recognize that some of these businesses are making significant investment and they're in it for return. And in return for their return, we benefit by having some good paying jobs. And I think we have a lot to offer. The natural beauty of our region and so forth is a big song.
This will probably be the last question. I will send, I don't expect you to answer the ones that I don't ask you, but I will send you the questions so you know what is on people's minds, what are on people's minds. Ron, do you support high-speed passenger and freight rail in Maine? Should we work with Canada to see if this could be an east-west connection?
Most definitely. I think there is a tremendous opportunity at our fingertips if we can just put the right people in the right places to make it happen. Heard today, whether it was Canadian Pacific or one of the newcomers to Maine on the rail industry is advertising for high-paying skilled labor, permanent positions within Maine. I think that back in the heyday of the pandemic, boomingest days of the pandemic, you all saw the articles where we had 110 container ships off the coast of Long Beach. That is all gone away now, folks. There's 2 or 3 in backlog now, and that's all shifted to the East Coast. One of the advantage points of the East Coast is you have Halifax going north, St. John, which are growing rapidly. I'm skipping Portland, the feeder line for some of the larger ports like Newark and Savannah is benefiting as well. So getting that material into a port that has access to high-speed rail to get it across and through our state will only benefit us as a region. And I support that wholeheartedly.
Oh, absolutely. I think that would be fantastic. I'd love to get on a train and go to Boston, and you can imagine what that do for this region. People coming up this way, especially if we could get some transportation down to the island. And in my first term in the legislature, Maine had been trying for a decade or more to make a port down at Sears Port, Sears Island, and it didn't work out. They pulled the plug, and the island was going to go back to whoever owned it. And one of my mentors in the legislature said, "Good, let it go. It's not, in the land business, we don't need to own this island." But as a first termer, I voted $2 million to purchase that island. I'm told, Rod, I'm sure we know this, that you can send double-decker freight containers all the way from Sears Island to Chicago. Is what I'm told. And that is tremendous opportunity. We need to get that. The trucks. We couldn't get by without them. Learning that because a lot of the issues we face is a trucker shortage, and that's leading to some of the inflation. But the more we get on the rails, the better. And one of my biggest disappointments when I was young, my oldest brother, on at least a few occasions, would go up to Brownville Junction and take the train to Montreal. And one of my biggest disappointments is that is something I was never able to do. And I would love to drive to Brownville Junction or wherever, get on a train and go to Montreal, or get on a train and go anywhere I can get. And I just think that would be. And Joe Waldacek, as our senator today, has really done a great job pushing rail. And I have a feeling that we haven't raised the gas tax since 2010, and the roads are underfunded. Rail is part of the road. And I have a feeling not everyone was enthused to have a lot of spending on studies and expensive rail with these revenues. But God bless Joe, he's pushed it, and I think it's gaining traction, and we should move forward.
Now for our closing statements, Rod, we'll start with you again.
Me again? Okay. And this is a 2 minute.
2 minutes.
Okay. Thanks again to the league and those that are here this evening on a rainy night, and to those streaming the event live. I also want to thank once more Representative Joe Perry for serving us in Augusta. More often than not, we tend to see the glass half empty. I'm a half full guy. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here tonight, having just been through, and I hope it's over, a national crisis with this pandemic, and we're here tonight. We lost many early due to this deadly virus, and we're here tonight because we came together and persevered through it. We together transformed the Cross Insurance Center from a world-class entertainment venue to a world-class vaccination event. Whether you got the vaccine or not, whether you masked or not, was your choice. But we're here tonight, and I'm extremely grateful for that. We shut down our economy, we put people out of work, we had people leave work early, not punch out early, but out of the workforce early. But we need to get back to work. The days ahead are going to be challenging. We now have record inflation, high energy, homelessness, labor issues, and much, much more. To solve these problems together, we cannot be divisive. Let me make that point again. We can't be divided as a governing body. I may not have answered your question fully or to your desired outcome, but pledge that presented with the issues will work tirelessly with you, for a solution and answer. All I ask on November 8th is for your support in my vision. I'm not interested in saying the right thing to get reelected, as I'm only interested in focused on 2-year term. My campaign is not sought out political endorsements or party endorsements. My campaign has not accepted any of state or individual funds. This brings a return to the term grassroots. I am not here to tear down my opponent, but to say that we both see the same fundamental issues, just through different eyeglasses.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, thank you. Thank you again. Thanks, Rod. I can say for sure, whatever happens on November 8th, is election day, I'm not worried about the representation of this district. I appreciate Rod and your family, you and your family's involvement and support and Veazie and commitment to public service. So I think whatever happens, we're going to be in good shape. I chose to run again because when I was first elected in 1996, was the first cycle where term limits was taking effect. And the legislature has changed a lot over the years. We've lost an awful lot of institutional knowledge. It's a lot easier to kind of figure out where you're going if you've been through it before. That was my primary reason. I think before I got back in 4 years ago, and when I get back after being away 10 years, I noticed the lobby was it felt like I never left. The lobby was very much the same. All the staff was very much the same, but it was such great turnover in legislature. There's only a handful with some institutional knowledge. And I just feel like that's really valuable with the unknowns going forward. I'm bullish on how things are gonna work out moving forward. But I was there during the Ballot administration where he had nothing. He just had to deal with billion-dollar deficits constantly, and it's not easy. It's not fun dealing with these things. And I feel like I've got something to offer that's different than a lot of the members of the legislature right now. And I just think that moving forward over the next couple of years, in my experience, hopefully would come in handy. As it was really some very specific things that can come up along the way. And I just enjoy helping people deal with the problems that they face. Come out and find me over the store, and I really like the constituent end of it. But thanks again for having us here, and thanks, Rod. Good to see you. And I'll probably see you on election day. I'm sure.
I want to thank both candidates. Please get out and vote. Early voting has started. Get your absentee ballots. If not, make sure you go to the polls on November 8th and vote. It's House District 24, and the candidates tonight are Rod Hathaway and Joe Perry. Please vote.